What's up, my people? I've been gone for a little minute, but I'm back. Sorry I don't got the video and everything up running where I can show myself and getting the camera and everything back together. I'm gonna get that situated. Soon, hopefully by the next video or two. But I just wanted to get back into the motion of things. There's been a lot of things going on. I think the last video I did was right around the time Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And everybody pretty much got an idea what's going on there. It's an inside job, and definitely some foreign government representatives, maybe not necessarily foreign government, but people that's associated with foreign governments and intelligence agencies in our country has something to do with it. And the organization that he owned and controlled definitely has something to do with it. I think that was a bit obvious. But it's a lot of stuff that's been going on with this Epstein stuff. Um, a lot of corruption at the highest level, and this is not just America. This is an international issue. We have a international cabal of elites, the billionaire Epstein class that's been involved in all type of, not just billionaires, millionaires too, but been involved in all type of heinous, disgusting actions. With children. You had Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. They seen the redacted files. They say his children as young as 9 and 12 years old involved in some of these things. So it's just absolutely disgusting and heinous. Um, so I just seen a little Piers Morgan video just pop up. I thought it'd be good to jump back into that and do a start here, and I'm gonna pause it. I never seen this before, so you're gonna watch it live and maybe pause it in between, throw my thoughts, 2 cents in at a couple times, and yeah, I'm just really excited to get back into this, and right now I think this is a crucial time in in our country, in America specifically. A lot of times, we're paying taxes to the federal government. Everybody's rushing through their taxes on time right now, see if they get anything back. But we gotta understand that we're funding this, destruction and carnage in Gaza and a lot of different places of the world. They starving Cuba now. You see, they went and took the democratically elected leader of Venezuela, and you got people defending that shit. Crazy shit is I see people. I'm Latino. I got people that's Latino too that's defending it, telling me the right wing. It's absolutely insane. It's absolute craziness. Um, the people are defending the indefensible, and right now we're paying taxes to a government that's funding all this heinous shit, all this thievery and child pedophilia and rape, and funding a foreign government that's colonialized us in the 21st century, doing death and destruction, to a population. It's just a lot of heinous, discussing things, and I think we have to be aware of that, and understand that we're responsible for what the people that we pick to represent us, the carnage and the death and destruction that they put on the world, and we should hold them accountable. People need to start marching in Washington. Start going to the Capitol, start going to the White House, make the people in power afraid. We got to do that, with solidarity together, black, white, Spanish, European, African, Asian, it doesn't matter. You're American, and we all got to live here, and we all, want to strive and succeed. So, but, nonetheless, let's get into this video.
Did he work for Mossad? It's more like Mossad was working for Epstein.
I could have gotten him no jail time if he had told me.
I just want to throw my 2 cents out there. Ryan Grimm, he works at Breaking Point and drops out news. One of the best journalists in the country right now. I'm working on actually a application, and it's going to be like a social media platform. It's going to be a lot of things that go with it, but I really want to highlight, great journalists like him, and journalists at Breaking Point, and like Max Blumenthal at the Gray Zone. Those are people doing really great work. So credits to them.
He was an intelligence source. It would have been a slam dunk for me.
Hang on a second. If he'd said he was working with the Mossad, then he would get off being a paedophile.
You have the FBI, you have the DOJ, you have unlimited resources, and the US government responds like, hey guys, let the internet figure it out. You want some guy on Reddit cross-referencing flight logs at 2 a.m. while he's eating Cheetos?
You're lying, you're defaming me. You are now going to be sued. You are now going to be sued.
The fact that Alan Dershowitz is even showing his face with all the stuff that's come out about him and things we just knew for a while now is absolutely fucking insane. But nonetheless, let's keep going.
His release of the Epstein files has shone an unforgiving light on the shocking judgment and tawdry behaviour of many VIP men. We've covered the revelations extensively, not least as they've plunged the British government and royal family into historic crisis. But many regular contributors to this show and many of our viewers say the media is missing or willfully ignoring the big story, that Epstein was an Israeli operation. That's what Cenk Uygur said. Why is the media not touching Jeffrey Epstein's clear connection to Israel? Asked Mehdi Hassan. With that question,
Kudos for Piers for actually doing this. Piers gets on my nerves a lot of times. He says a lot of stupid shit sometimes, but kudos for him for talking about this connection because, a lot of the mainstream media has not talked about this. They actually try to just connect them to the KGB and Russia. Is absolutely fucking silly. He's definitely had involvement with Mossad. It seemed to be that he was even on a higher plateau than Mossad or even the Prime Minister of Israel at the time, Ehud Barak. They were asking him for advice and things of that nature. And I think, a shame on the media, a shame on the media of America, mainly the corporate media, because, like I said, real journalists like Drop Site News and Breaking Points and a lot of independent YouTube journalists have been reporting on this. The whole time for years now. But ever since Bill Clinton did the transnational what was it? He put in a bill into effect that made basically that there was no more public utility media, that now it was just controlled by transnational corporations. So now all our media comes from 6 corporations: Comcast, Disney. So they're just giving us corporate talking points. We got to understand that their interest, corporate interest, is diametrically opposed to the public's interest, and just always keep that in mind. But let's keep going. Like I said, kudos to Piers for actually report for even making a statement and reporting on this and bringing this to light. Credit to them.
theory that Epstein was an intelligence asset makes a lot of sense. He had a vast and mostly unexplained wealth. He kept meticulous and exhaustive records. He obsessively curated VIP friends who he invited to luxury properties wired for surveillance. He got an implausibly generous legal reprieve after the district attorney in Florida was told, quote, Epstein belongs to intelligence. And the files certainly do reveal many ties to Israel. We know that former PM Ehud Barak stayed with Epstein frequently, long after his conviction, and the connection certainly didn't end there. But the current Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, says it's a red herring. Epstein's unusual close relationship with Barak doesn't suggest Epstein worked for Israel, he posted. It proves the opposite. So what do the files prove? In a moment, we'll debate this with Bassem Youssef and Alan Dershowitz. But first, here to help answer that question is Ryan Grimm. He's investigative journalist and co-founder of Drop Site News. Ryan Grimm, welcome back to Uncensored. There are so many files here, and I have noticed just on an almost daily basis now, there's a lot of stuff in there about Israel, about Ehud Barak, about Epstein, and people are beginning to put all this together and saying that actually what initially was dismissed as a kind of outlandish conspiracy theory may well be closer to the truth, that Epstein may well have been some kind of Israeli agent, but potentially working with Mossad. But you've studied these files in a lot more detail than most. Mm-hmm. What is your assessment of that?
If you have ever wanted to land a 100 to 150 million career in as little as the next 4 months,
I mean, it's not a simple question. It doesn't have a simple answer. What I would first tell people is just Google or use a search engine that functions, Drop Site News, Epstein, Israel, and you'll find a series of stories that we have published already and that we're consistently adding to. But then you can also ask yourself just some basic questions. All right, how did he get an Austrian fake passport? I mean, a real passport with a fake name in 1982. Like there aren't many regular people that can get, fake passports to help them travel around the world. Another important thing to understand is that, 3 of the people that he is very closely associated with in the 1980s are Stan Pottinger, who is a attorney who is known to have moved money for the CIA during Iran-Contra, Adnan Khashoggi, who is like the banker during Iran-Contra, he's moving money and weapons, a Saudi figure, and Doug.
bringing up Iran Contra is so interesting. I'm gonna put how all this thing correlates, to us, the regular people in the world. We hear these things, we don't necessarily like it doesn't correlate in your mind. You can abstractly visualize, how does this affect my life? And as a person, grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, New York, the ghetto, kind of understanding, like the crack epidemic era, the Iran Contra uh, case. First of all, they you study what went on with the Iran Contra. It's crazy the deception that these elite, they put the walls over our eyes, but it's almost like this is a play. Like they're all in correlation with each other. But basically, what was going on was how they funded it was the CIA was actually putting drugs in the neighborhood, cocaine, and they taught people in Oakland how to cook crack, and it went viral all over Los Angeles, all over New York, all over Chicago. We had the crack epidemic throughout the 80s, and the government were giving it to we're working with the cartels and the street dealers in the street, and predominantly purposely put the drugs in black and Spanish neighborhoods. Purposely. You had Gary Webb reporting that with the what was it, the Mercury Times in Phoenix or California, one of those articles. But they ended up killing him. He said he committed suicide with 2 shots to his head. He was connecting the dots with a guy named Blandone and Freeway Ricky Ross, and just crazy stuff that the government has been doing. So I don't understand why people are surprised that we didn't think they would go to the extent of being okay with soliciting minors, to honeypot people and blackmail them, people in positions of power. I didn't think they would go that far, but I knew they were definitely capable of evil. Just from the crack epidemic and things of that nature, as it is. And then the crazy thing is, they put the drugs in our neighborhoods, black and Spanish people, and then charged us, gave us 4 times the time if you got caught with a crack rock compared to cocaine, because they knew that people in poor neighborhoods were more likely to be caught uh, with crack. So being a predator and victimizing the poor is just absolute tragedy. But I'll let Ryan Grimm get back to it.
Douglas Lease, a weapons contractor. He was a protege to Douglas Lease. He was a business partner to Stan Pottinger at the time that Stan Pottinger was, heavily involved in Iran-Contra. And he was, he knew and he ran in the same circle as Adnan Khashoggi, and he has a fake passport. So, and then he emerges out of Iran-Contra, with enormous amounts of, wealth and power and connections. So and then of course there's the Robert Maxwell connection, Ari Ben-Menashe, who, I don't know if you've had him on your program. You should, if you haven't. Former Israeli intelligence official himself has said that Epstein knew Maxwell. Whether or not he did, that's an open question. Just those connections alone, and then for Netanyahu to say that, well, okay, he was very close with Ehud Barak, therefore he had nothing to do with Israeli intelligence is absurd. Ehud Barak played a central role, however you want to define it, in Iran-Contra. He was an Israeli intelligence official throughout the 1980s. He becomes prime minister, becomes minister of defense. Another top Israeli spy who is a protege of Ehud Barak, Yoni Koren, stayed for like weeks at a time at Epstein's apartment in Manhattan. So I think the public hears all of this information and it's like, okay, I kind of think we get it. What is confusing is that, did he work for Mossad? That part is confusing, because if you think of Mossad as or any spy service as a spy service, like, what is it in service of? These spy services are in service of extraordinarily powerful kind of multinational global networks of individual figures. And so it's not as if, is Mossad or something like that, he was working for them. It's more like, that Mossad was working for Epstein. Now that's putting it quite too simply, but if you understand, the way that power works at, the top global levels, they are able to direct the services of these different, agencies, rather than him like filling out a W-9 and sending it into Mossad.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the references we've identified that have come from the latest dump of files. In 2018, Epstein asked Ehud Barak in an email to make clear I don't work for Mossad, which in itself is quite an intriguing instruction to a former Israeli prime minister.
My I don't work for Mossad T-shirt is raising all these questions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, why are you saying that? In 2017, Epstein asked Barak if someone had asked him to help obtain former Mossad agents to do dirty investigations and so on. There are lots of these kind of quite cryptic messages going on. I guess the obvious, response I would have is, well, why wouldn't he be? I mean, he was perfect territory, I would have thought, for an organization like Mossad to want to recruit, given how far his tentacles spread around the globe, around rich, powerful, famous people. In the same way that when people have suggested that there's a lot of references to Russia and Putin and so on in there as well, that wouldn't surprise me either. He was clearly recording people for some form of compromat. Maybe it was self-protective, or maybe he was doing this for large sums of money on behalf of foreign states. I mean, I've reached the point with the Epstein scandal where I'm pretty much prepared to entertain any conspiracy theory until I see concrete evidence it's not true.
If your family cheated you out of billions,
definitely,
how far would you go?
Definitely 100% conspiracy, isn't it? I mean, it couldn't be without a doubt that these conspiracies. Oh, I forgot to mention that when I mentioned Iran-Contra, they basically was using they was selling arms to Iranians to fund the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. Basically, America acted as capitals, and when I say capital, like transnational corporations, benefactor of protecting the West mainly, and from any type of socialist movement or upheaval. You gotta understand what America represents. America represents, if you cannot tell, capital controls the government. The government doesn't regulate capital. We haven't had that since post World War II, and I would say since the Nixon era, where you had government regulating capital. Ever since then, we had the opposite, and I think that was a major play for having any type of socialist revolution in the Americas or other side of the hemisphere. They wouldn't allow it in Vietnam or the other side of the hemisphere. They definitely couldn't allow it in the Americas and this side of the hemisphere. If Americans was able to see any type of social resistance and social solidarity, and moving away from capital. Like I said, the interests are diametrically opposed. So, that's why they funded the Sandinistas and was willing to give arms to the Iranians, and it just show you that everything is just all a big facade. It's really just about protecting capital.
It would be, you're right, it would be malpractice on the part of Israel or any spy agency at this point not to have attempted to recruit somebody like him who had the access, obviously utterly amoral or immoral in character. This is and knows how to move money around, knows how to do money laundering, knows how to do weapons trafficking, knows how to traffic in commodities. Like this is a very valuable asset. And it's important to understand there's a difference between an agent who's like hired by Israel, to go out and infiltrate or to do assassinations or whatever they do, and an asset who is somebody who you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And it appears like he's much more kind of in that realm. It's also important to understand what he and Barak were doing for the 15, I guess the 5 years or so after he left his office of Minister of Defense, and then Epstein died. They were central to the kind of expansion of the Israeli kind of cyber weapons program, which itself is very connected to the Israeli state itself, and has helped shape what web surveillance, cyber surveillance looks like around the world now, because all of these multinational major corporations you've heard of are just scooping up all of these Israeli startups that are themselves filled with people who came out of Unit 8200, and Barak is one of the key players in the growth of that industry, and Epstein was with him every single step of the way.
So that's like referring. Let's connect it together. You had the program Daddy's Home that would track, supposedly so-called terrorists Hamas terrorists, which usually it wasn't. It was just regular people. That was being persecuted. Basically, they would track them when they went home to their family and drop the bomb on them. I don't mean to laugh, but it was fucking sick. Specifically when they made it home to their family, increasing the casualty rate. So they worked on programs like that. Palantir helped shape it. Palantir is referenced a lot in the Epstein files, but I'll let them keep it.
Yeah, and there are direct references in the files. There's a confidential informant to the FBI that Epstein was employed by Mossad. An FBI report from the Los Angeles field office in October 2020 said the Bureau's source had become convinced Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. It said Epstein had been trained as the spy for Mossad, alleging he had ties to the US and allied intelligence operations through his longtime personal lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. I can ask Alan in a moment about that. Also said Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and his brother Josh, a financier, were both his students. Now, there's no independent evidence to corroborate that. This is one of many kind of intriguing references in there. And I should say as a caveat, there are obviously many things in the document dump which are outlandish and just tips that have come in, which are obviously complete nonsense. But there's certainly enough meat on the bone here. Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and that has to be made clear with all of this stuff. But the mere fact of his incredibly close relationship with Ehud Barak, and as you say, working on this cyber stuff, I mean, that alone shows that he's certainly very, very close to the higher echelons of Israeli political life. Maybe he wasn't a fully paid up Mossad agent, but he was certainly what I would categorize as somebody right in there with the Israeli hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And he's not the kind of guy that needs to invoice for services. He's so far beyond that world. Even if he wasn't a complete, he's always referred to as a billionaire. So let's take that at face value. If not, he's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And what he's doing is he's, striking cybersecurity deals with Ivory Coast, with Nigeria, with Mongolia, with, South American countries, around the world. And his relationships with the upper echelons of the Israeli government, which allows, because it is, a state recognized by the United Nations, allows kind of groups of people who otherwise would just be kind of gangsters going around the world to operate, through semi-official channels. He's the guy that's operating in the gray zone, and then in the end, you come in and make an official, corporate, and then state to state agreement. That's how he's getting paid, being the middleman there, not by invoicing Mossad for his services.
Today's show is sponsored by Veracity and their metabolic really know with the vast health.co for up to 45% off, and make sure you use my promo code PEERS so they know I sent you. I mean, we still don't really know where the vast amount of Epstein's wealth came from. From everything we're gleaning from these files, what is your best guess?
Well, you have to understand that during Iran-Contra, hundreds of millions, eventually up to a couple $1 billion, were stashed away in these secret slush funds that were controlled mostly by the Israelis, because the Israelis were the middlemen of the CIA, had their own slush funds as well that were coming off of the profits that they were making from basically upselling weapons to Iran. Think about that, by the way. Netanyahu is here in Washington today urging Trump to bomb Iran because they're this gigantic threat. In the 1980s, it was Israel and the United States who were arming Iran to the teeth and making a huge profit out of it. Out of that, they created this network of shell companies and slush funds that had to kind of secretly move constantly to avoid detection from people that are trying to uncover money laundering. And Epstein's right in the middle of all of that. So you can imagine how somebody comes out of that with their with a significant amount of wealth to begin with, and from there he gets linked up with Les Wexner. We have a story even about how the planes that were involved in Iran-Contra, when the heat really got on them, Epstein moved those planes to Columbus, Ohio, so Les Wexner could use them for a couple of years, shipping his lingerie and Abercrombie and Fitch around the world. So there's really a direct line from this Iran-Contra scandal that creates this kind of shadow world of money laundering and kind of develops into the quasi like government criminality that we have today, to then Les Wexner and him becoming the power of attorney for Les Wexner, and then once you're locked in, oh, he's the rich guy who also handles Les Wexner's money. Then you're in. Then you can start getting contracts with people like Leon Black and others, and it just snowballs.
Fascinating. Ryan Grimm, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, to debate all of these claims is Alan Dershowitz, author of The Preventive State and Jeffrey Epstein's former lawyer, and comedian and activist Bassem Youssef. Well, welcome to both of you. Alan Dershowitz, I know you said emphatically you do not believe Jeffrey Epstein was a spy, but as more and more stuff appears in these document dumps from the files, there is more and more stuff linking
Let's get ready for the lies.
to Israel, to Ehud Barak, to all sorts of stuff. Are you still as certain?
More so. Look at the chronology. As far as I know, he doesn't meet Ehud Barak until after he pleads guilty. And if he had been a spy before he pleaded guilty, the first person he would have told that was me. I was trying to get him the best possible deal. And I asked him over and over again, what can you tell me that will get you a better deal? Do you have anything on Trump? Do you have anything on Clinton? Do you have anything about intelligence? He would have told me. Instead, in 1999, 1998, I was in Israel doing research for a book, and he called me from Paris saying, I want to come to Israel. I've never met any Israelis. I don't know anybody there. Could you arrange a lunch for me with Israel's 5 smartest people? And so I did. I got the Justice of the Supreme Court, the Attorney General, interesting people that I thought he would meet. And
this guy is totally full of shit. From the way Epstein was calling people goyim and thinking how they live to serve, how everybody lives to serve them. Yeah, I can tell he's completely full of shit right now. He's completely lying. Maybe that's why he's so red like that. He's probably fucking sweating fucking bricks, before he had to come on here nervous like a motherfucker, because he know he's about to come on here and lie like a motherfucker. But let's go. Let's keep listening to this shit.
We had lunch, and then he and I took a walk in the Shuk, and I bought him a T-shirt which said, I'm a member of the IDF, kind of khaki T-shirt, and he loved it. He wore it. There's no possibility that he was working for intelligence at the time I was representing him. Now we have a chronological issue. He meets Ehud Barak, but that's later. Did Mossad hire him after he was convicted? Well, maybe.
I just want to say, Alan Dershowitz looks fucking demonic. His teeth look like shit. His mouth is always parched. He's nervous. Look how red he is. Oh, man, isn't this guy rich? He looks fucking horrible.
Your previous guest talked about planes involving Victoria's Secret. Well, Wexner didn't buy Victoria's Secret until well after the early time. So one has to look at the dates. One has to look at the chronology. I hate to pour water.
Why didn't he mention anything about? He didn't mention any dates.
Theory. It's so much fun to talk about, but from what I know, I just don't see any evidence that he ever worked for the Mossad. And if he did, why wouldn't he have told me? I actually was a lawyer. I represented the Mossad back in the 90s when 3 Mossad agents were caught in Cyprus, and Cyprus thought they were working for Turkey. In fact, they weren't, and I helped to get them out. I have a very good relationship with the current head of the Mossad, the former head of the Mossad. Obviously, I've asked them that question, and there's no evidence at all.
Alan, I would say this. Alan, I would say this to you. If I was to ask you about all the despicable crimes that Epstein was committing, right, you would say, because I think you've said it publicly, you didn't know about any of that, right? So, could it be that Jeffrey Epstein just had a completely different life that he just did not tell you about, and that included despicable human sex trafficking, and it may also have included being a spy? I mean, clearly, if he wasn't telling you about all the sex trafficking, which was
This is pissing me off though. Why are you giving this dude the benefit of the doubt? He was on the island. They had emails where Norman Fingerstein was referenced, and he said that Dershowitz was standing up getting a blowjob with nothing on next to him. Like, what are we doing here? Why are you even sitting here? Why you didn't bring that up? Of course he's liable in this shit, so he's gonna lie his ass off. That's why he's so red. That's why he's so nervous. Look at Boston there sitting there having a good time enjoying the lies because he knows it's total bullshit.
Huge amount of his life, then why is it surprising if he kept the rest of it from you?
Well, it's very surprising because telling me about his sex life didn't help him. Telling me that he worked for the Mossad would have given him a get out of jail free card. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein hated me before he died. He wrote all kinds of letters to Woody Allen as to what a terrible lawyer I was. He wouldn't pay me my fee. He fired me because he thought I had gotten him a terrible deal, that famous sweetheart deal. He ended up 18 months in prison. He was outraged. He didn't want to spend a minute in prison. I could have gotten him no jail time. If he had told me he worked for the Mossad, for the CIA, he was an intelligence source, it would have been a slam dunk for me to go to whoever I had to go to, even up to the President of the United States, and I would have gotten him a deal with no time at all. Epstein was a selfish SOB. He would do anything to avoid prison time. Why wouldn't he have told me that he worked for the Mossad if he worked for the Mossad? So, yeah, of course he's not going to tell me when I knew him as an academic acquaintance, he's not going to tell me he's having sex with young children. He hid that from everybody. He did have a separate life, a completely separate life. But once I was his lawyer, it was in his interest to tell me things that would benefit him. And I can't imagine anything benefiting him more than having worked for an intelligence agency, but I pressed him.
I mean, some people might
and
be.
He didn't,
I'll come to Bassem in a moment, but some people will be listening to this going, "Hang on a second. You mean if he'd said he was working with the Mossad or CIA, then he would get off being a paedophile? In other words, you can commit crimes of paedophilia
well, he wasn't
against
accused of being
children,
no,
and you would simply not go to prison for it."
That's right. Let's be clear. He was charged with 2 counts. One, a 17-year and 10-month-old woman who he paid for prostitution. The other, a woman in her 20s who was a prostitute who he paid. Those were the only 2 things he pleaded guilty to. The only 2 things he's ever been convicted. He was never convicted of pedophilia. He was never convicted of trafficking. None of that. He may have done all of those things. But when I was representing him, all he was being charged with was these 2 counts of paying prostitutes, one who was 17 years old and 10 months. I could have gotten him no jail time for that if he had been a member of the Mossad. Any good lawyer could have parlayed his membership and his contribution to intelligence into a deal. Or, for example, if he had anything on Donald Trump or anything on Bill Clinton, of course any prosecutor would exchange this nobody, who nobody had ever heard of at the time, getting free from prison for, my God, the president, former president, future president. No, the best evidence is that he never, ever tried to tell me anything that would help him, that would support any of these theories about Clinton or Trump or the Mossad. So I am completely confident that he was not an intelligence asset. I wish, your previous guest is right. He would have been a perfect intelligence asset if I were the head of the Mossad. I would say, oh my God, now that I know who he knew, Bill Gates, everybody, the Sultan of this, the Sultan of that, sure, we try to recruit him, but they didn't know that at the time because he didn't have many of those friends back in the 1980s and 1990s. Many of them became his friends, ironically, after he got out of prison.
How did I become Employee of the Month 74 months in a row? Monday.com. Let's make this short. I run our club.
Okay, Bassem Youssef, you've been waiting patiently. Welcome back to Uncensored. What is your response to Alan Dershowitz?
Well, I think that what Mr. Alan Dershowitz just said is the best recruitment video for Mossad. Basically, they're telling people, if you're Mossad, you can get away with anything. The same thing that will happen with Tom Alexandrovich, the cybersecurity guy from Netanyahu's government who was arrested in Nevada for trying to lure a minor in an FBI stint operation, and he got off the hook. He traveled. He didn't even have to attend his trial. He did Zoom from Israel. And like Ori Solomon, just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, Is this the guy from the biolabs? I wonder if this the guy from the biolab they just called in Vegas who had fucking vials of HIV, COVID, all type shit, and he just skipped and ran back to Israel. Let's see if that's what he's talking about.
There was a biolab in Nevada that nobody is actually talking about. Actually, as a matter of fact, the mainstream media, they reported it, but they never mentioned his nationality as an Israeli who was running a biolab in Nevada that includes deadly viruses. If that was a Muslim, it would be like all over the news. So basically, Mr. Dershowitz is telling us, if you're Mossad, you have like an out of jail card. And you know what? Maybe he's right.
Or a CIA,
I'm
or a
actually
CIA
watching,
agent. That's true.
Mr. Alan, Mr. Dershowitz, I did not interrupt you a single second when you talked. So,
I
like,
just wanted to
after
correct
you're
you.
done with the gaslighting, please let me finish. First of all, I think like I'm now kind of leaning towards believing mainstream media, especially CBS and CNN under Barry Weiss and Larry Ellison. I mean, the evidence is there that he is actually a Russian asset. His girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, was the daughter of a Mossad super spy. He was represented by you, Mr. Dershowitz, Israel's favorite lawyer, who you're also a lawyer to the Mossad, which, of course, everything you tell us will be true. Ehud Barak was at his place the whole time. He fled to Israel when he was charged with sex crimes. And he was pictured wearing an IDF shirt. He was funded by pro-Israel fanatics. He worked for the Rothschild. He donated to pro-Israel student groups. He was responsible for the Wagner's group's pro-Israel philanthropy. He supported Israel settlement projects. His friends were all Zionists. He referred to us as Goyim. He was involved in Israel diplomacy effort. He brokered security deals with Israel. And even a former Israeli intelligence officer, you know, Ari Ben Menashe, like Mr. Ryan Grimm said, he said
he forgot to mention he even set up a meeting with Netanyahu, and I'm not sure if it was Putin directly or representatives from the KGB or something of that nature, but I know he set up a meeting for Netanyahu with the Russians. Netanyahu forgot to mention that when he said how friendly Epstein was with Ehud Barak. You were a bit friendly with him too, huh, buddy? Oh, and also I put that that article that was citing what Jane Doe had said about Dershowitz, how he was comfortable enough to go and talk to Epstein while he was getting blowjobs from, I don't know if it was minors, prostitute, whatever. He just sit there and communicate. And look, Norman Finkelstein was mentioned, but he was a man of integrity. You know, basically saying these guys are pieces of shit. They're basically Nazi Jewish supremacists, basically. You know, so kudos to Norman Finkelstein and kudos for Bassem because he's doing a good job of serving Alan Dershowitz to his fucking face right now. Good job.
He ran a honeypot for Israel. So yes, of course, he was definitely a Russian spy. Makes sense. You know what? I'm by the way, Mr.
Well,
Allen,
you're a good comedian. You're a good comedian. This is very funny.
I'm actually a huge fan of yours because I have known you since the 2000s. I mean, actually, you're one of the very few lawyers who are actually known in the Middle East. It's like watching a real-life courtroom drama lawyer. There's even T-shirts with your face in it in Egypt. And I've followed you for a while. And that's why I'm here today. When they told me Mr. Dershowitz is here, I was like, I have to be here just for the gaslighting, because the level of gaslighting isn't new. For more than 2.5 years, Mr. Dershowitz and his client, Israel, have gaslighted us in front of our eyes for 2.5 years with all of the destructions and the killing that we've seen in Gaza, but they, according to them, it's not a genocide, it's self-defense. He told us that every dead child is
not a genocide.
That the
it's
International
a blood libel
Court of Justice, I did not interrupt you, sir. That the International Court of Justice is a fake court, and Israel critics and anti-Semitic. Now, Mr. Jersey, please, I did not interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. I know that you're a lawyer and you do that. Objection,
I'm
Your Honor.
Interrupt
Don't interrupt
if you
me.
use the word
now, the
genocide.
Epstein files are public. People can read them. People can see the horrible stuff that you, again, are gaslighting us. In your own word, you said that he's not a pedophile because he liked 15 and 16 years old, but not 11 and 12 years old.
No, I said 17 and 10 months.
People can read, Alan.
And 10
you
months.
can read the ages of the kids in the emails. They can read about the pizza, the ice cream, the beef jerky.
Convicted.
And you can see the connection with Israel. And yet, here you are again, gaslighting us. This is your playbook, attacking the victims.
It's called
the Palestinians, Hamas,
it's
terrorists,
called truth.
Epstein victims, liars, prostitutes, drama students, and of course,
you say Hamas are not terrorists?
You have a history
you say Hamas
of hiring
are not
investigators.
terrorists?
to dig through teenage girls at MySpace pages looking for marijuana.
IDF and Israel are the terrorists. Absolutely. You are European, you are people from Europe that came to a land, kick people out their homes and massacred, and during the Nakba, you did terrorist actions, and you've been doing terrorist actions over the last, what, 60 years since then? So, come on, are you serious? Gaslight somebody else with that bullshit.
What lawyers
You
do.
called a 16-year-old girl a thief in the Daily Mail. You got Epstein 13 months in county jail with work release for abusing 34 victims where he should have got life in prison. That's not a plea bargain. That's a spa package. And every single time, your defense is the
I
same.
challenge
She's
you
lying,
to defend.
she wants money.
I challenge you to defend
don't
your
believe what you
statement
read.
that
You
he got
represented
18 months.
Stop interrupting me, Mr. Dershowitz.
You're
You
just
represented
lying.
a serial
You're just
child
lying.
predator and got him the deal of the century. 2 women accused you under oath. You settled for nearly $1 million. Innocent men don't pay. They go to trial.
That's
You
another
know who
lie,
pays?
not a penny.
Guilty men
You're
with good
lying.
lawyers.
You're
Oh, wait,
defaming me.
are the good
You are
lawyers.
now
So what
going.
does that
You are
make
now
you?
going
You
to
have
be
spent 50
sued.
years
You are
defending
now going to
rapists,
be sued
killers, and
for
every
saying I
time
paid
you
$1
attack
million.
the woman who come forward.
You're going to be
You are a
sued,
civil
and
libertarian.
I would.
You're not.
Pierce,
You're
I
not a
would
civil
recommend
libertarian. You
you
are
cutting him
defending the
off
innocent.
when he
You're not defending
says
them.
that I
You
paid
are
$1
a
million.
professional gaslighter who
I
tells
didn't
you
pay
to do one
penny. That's
attack
a
you
lie.
and trust you instead.
Bassem, you've spoken for a long time.
Like Pierce, I
Okay,
did not
Bassem, you've made
interrupt
it.
Mr. Alan
Bassem, you've
Dershowitz,
spoken
and
for
he
a long
keeps interrupting
time.
me.
Bassem, you've spoken for a long time. You've made a number of allegations.
There is going to be,
Is it
I
only
can
fair
tell
that
you
Alan
right now,
Dershowitz
I am going
I want
to...
Alan
But
Dershowitz
he
to
keeps
respond.
interrupting me, Pierce. I didn't interrupt him.
Okay,
You
I
can
am
cut me
going
off
Let him
to,
if
respond
I'm
I'm going
to
to
you.
make it very clear.
But he shouldn't be interrupting
I'm
me.
going to make it very clear. I'm going to make it very clear. I'm filing a lawsuit immediately. I'm instructing my lawyers to file a lawsuit against him for saying I paid $1 million. What happened is a woman falsely accused me. She admitted she may have mistaken me and confused me for somebody else. She dropped all of her charges. Not a single penny was paid, nothing. And it's all in the agreement, all a matter of court record. You saying that I paid $1 million is going to result in you having to pay me many millions of dollars. What'd you say?
This is from the New Yorker.
The New Yorker never said anything like that. You know, you're such a liar. You know, I thought you were a comedian. I thought at least you'd be funny. You're just a liar. You're just somebody who is prepared to make any kind of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel statement, and you're willing to lie about it. Now, I want you to justify the $1 million. I want you to justify that I paid $1 million. I want you to justify that. Will you justify it? Will you justify that I paid $1 million? Where did you get that piece of nonsense? Where did you make that up? You said Hamas is not a terrorist organization?
If you want to sue someone,
you show me the New Yorker and I'll pay you $1 million. You're a liar. The New Yorker didn't print that. You're lying.
Okay,
why don't we take a time out now? Go online, get the New Yorker, and show the people that are listening, the good people, the New Yorker. You're lying through your teeth. You're a despicable liar, and if you said it under oath, you'd be a perjurer. There is no truth to what you've said, period, and I'm going to sue you.
Oh, come on. You do, is that what you
Finally,
do?
I shut him up.
No, you didn't shut up. You're just like cutting me. Mr. Allen, you went from I never got a massage on Epstein to I got a massage from a 50-year-old Russian woman named Olga. But I kept my underwear on.
My wife and I both received therapeutic. I received a neck massage back in the 1990s. I have never received an erotic massage in my life. I have never told a misstatement about this. And I want you to show everybody the New Yorker the claim that the New Yorker said I paid $1 million. It's an outright lie. You can look it up right now while we're talking. Show it to the people. Show them what you say the New Yorker said.
Okay,
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It is called for people to search it.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Everybody can see it.
It's called Alan Dershowitz, Devil's Advocate.
Maybe it'll mitigate your damages.
By Coney Brock, July 29, 2019. You can read there. It's there.
Read me the quote. Read me the quote about $1 million. You can't find it because it's not there, because you made it up and because you're a despicable liar. And you're going to be sued. And if you want to mitigate your damages, then you'll show me the New Yorker. But you're not going to show me the New Yorker, because everybody out there is going to look you in the eye and say, you lied on international television about Dershowitz paying $1 million and the New Yorker saying it. It is false. Categorically false. I'm calling you a liar. You can sue me for defamation. And if you can produce the New Yorker article, you'll win that case. But you can't, because it doesn't exist.
No, sir, I can read it to you right now. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, read it to me right now. Read it to me. Let's hear.
Okay. Do you have a second?
I have more than a second. I have all the time you want. Read me a New Yorker statement that says, I paid $1 million to the woman who accused me falsely and who admitted that she may have misidentified me with somebody else. You read me that right now.
Yeah.
Silence. Silence.
So, dude, it's a big article.
Profound silence.
Dude,
find me the relevant point.
Yes,
find it for me. We have all the time in the world. Find it for me. Let's go. Find it for me. You can look it up. Google has, we would say, Dershowitz $1 million.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
We caught you.
In 2015, when Jeffrey's allegation against Ghislaine Merton and Epstein became, okay. Just before a trial was to begin in May 2019, the amount was undisclosed, but Jeffrey reportedly received a multi-million-dollar settlement. The allegation went in...
Who did?
Wait, dude. Jeffrey.
Yeah, let's go.
Veronica Bell.
So you said I paid $1 million to the woman who accused me falsely. I want you to quote that from the New Yorker. And if you can't, admit you're a liar.
Say now.
Silence. Profound silence.
Dude, stop it. Stop.
Guilty silence.
Dude, it is a... Guys, yes, here it is.
Oh, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. You're lying. Silence.
Oh, here it is. In April 2016, the case settled. There was no such settlement. With the press reported that the agreement...
What case?
Wait. The press reported that the agreement included a financial arrangement implying that Jeffrey's team had paid it. In fact, Dershowitz's insurance company had paid Jeffrey's lawyers in negotiation. The parties has discussed a figure of nearly $1 million, with $50,000 going to Dershowitz, which would allow him to claim a payment. The final amount has not been disclosed.
But you know it. A, you know it. Number B,
dude,
this had nothing to do with Virginia.
You want to go and
this had nothing to do with the woman who accused me. This was a lawsuit between lawyers, and it had nothing to do with this accusation. Zero. You made up the whole story. The New Yorker never reported it.
That's the dumbest fucking excuse I've ever heard. He would have to put his head down. I don't know. Does he even? Why would you even come live? Why would you even come? Why come? He just made that big fuss. I mean, you paid $1 million to the opposing lawyers for what? How does that make sense, buddy? You played it for the lawyers, so the lawyers that the person he was representing can get the money. Stop trying to play lawyer games with fucking words, man. You're trying to play a play on words. It's silly, bro. We all see it. We all know what's going on.
He paid the lawyers.
They also paid me. There was a mutual settlement where both sides paid sums to each other.
They got like
each of us received payments covering our legal fees, and this was about lawyers. This was not about any accusation
you know what, guys?
against me.
I invite everybody to go to read the New Yorker article and see the pattern of lying that Mr. Dershowitz has done over the years.
So, all right, let me get involved now. Let me say something now.
Let's get back to the merits. We know he's a liar. We know he's not a funny comedian.
Come on, liar, anti-Semitic. It's the same thing.
All right, let me pull it back to the bigger picture.
Why would I believe you if you have lied many times?
Let me pull it back. Alan, I wanted to just talk to you about something you said earlier, because there's been a bit of confusion about this, I think, in the public domain. You said in the end that the settlement that Epstein made pertained to a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old. But many of the contemporaneous reports about this settlement refer to a 14-year-old girl who Epstein had paid for a massage.
That was not part of the case.
So can you explain?
That was not part of the case. The indictment.
But that precipitated the investigation, right?
Let me tell you what happened. A 14-year-old girl was heard over the phone talking to another friend about whether or not she could get a massage from an older man. That precipitated the investigation. But the investigation culminated not in any kind of an indictment regarding that 14-year-old. There was no evidence of it. And so in the end, the 14-year-old claim disappeared. The only evidence that they were able to prove to get a grand jury indictment was a 17-year-old and 10-month person and a woman in her 20s, an adult who has agency. Both of them in the indictment were called prostitutes. And he was indicted for paying money to soliciting two prostitutes, one of whom was 17 years old and 10 months. The 14-year-old was
right. So
never
the 17-year-old, but to be clear, legally, okay. But Alan, to be clear, the 17-year-old was a legal minor.
Of course, and that's why he pleaded guilty to it and went to jail for it. He deserved to go to jail.
And do you
for
believe?
17 and 10
Do you
month
believe?
Old. Yeah.
So I interviewed one of the legal team on behalf of some of these girls involved in that case, who said that he was offended about the characterization of any minor as a prostitute.
Well, then he should complain to the prosecution. It's what the prosecution put in the indictment. We didn't write the indictment. The prosecution put it in the indictment. They did an investigation. They found out that these were young women who were coming for pay, were being paid money to give massages. They defined that as prostitution. It wasn't us who did that. That was the prosecutors who did that. So that's all.
But when you say he wasn't convicted, okay. But when you say he wasn't convicted as a paedophile, he was though. If you do a deal that involves a minor,
look, you can quibble over words, but medical definition of pedophile.
Well, no, it's a legal definition, isn't it?
He pleaded. No, that's not the legal definition. The legal definition is underage. The word pedophile is never used legally for anybody who's 17 and 10 months. But we're quibbling. He pleaded guilty to 17 and 10 months. He was guilty of that. It's a despicable, terrible thing. He may have had sex with even younger people, but he was never convicted of that. He was never charged with that. He probably would have been charged with it had he stayed alive, but he wasn't. But let's stick to the facts. He pleaded guilty only to 2 charges of soliciting a 17, 10-month-old and an above-age person for prostitution. That's what the state charged him with. That's what he pleaded guilty to. That's what the federal government agreed would be the deal that would terminate the federal prosecution. That's what happened. He hated me for that
if you
deal.
have any
He thought I
sexual
was a
relations
terrible
with
lawyer.
a minor, yeah, but Alan, if you, I mean, talk about quibbling, but if you have sexual relations with a minor, you're a paedophile.
No, well, I don't want to fight with that because you can call him whatever you want. That's fine. You call him a pedophile, but no medical doctor, no psychologist will tell you that a 17-year-old, 10-month woman who's taking money to give massages is subject to the other person being called a pedophile. But let's not get into that. Call him a pedophile. That's fine. He pleaded guilty to charges of having sex for money with a minor. Yes, he did that. And he did much worse than that. And he was a despicable human being who deserves no pity whatsoever. But that doesn't give anybody license to simply lie about what happened. For example, one of the papers in Israel, when talking about Ehud Barak, said he was convicted of having sex with a 14-year-old. No, he wasn't. He was investigated for that. And the investigation terminated with no prosecution for a 14-year-old. Did he have sex with a 14-year-old? I have no idea. Maybe the prosecution has an idea. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. But it's not true that he was convicted of that. Never.
So what is your assessment, Alan Dershowitz, now of what Jeffrey Epstein did? And why is it that no really high-profile American men in particular have been brought to account for what was going on?
Well, one name has been. One of the names that was recently disclosed by Congress people yesterday was Leslie Wexner. And I think it's very appropriate to investigate Leslie Wexner. He went back to Jeffrey Epstein many, many, many years. Let me give you my assessment of what happened. Look, there were real victims, horrible victims, people who should never, never have been put through this, people who are underage. And I have tremendous compassion for these victims. But then there's another category of people, women who are 25, who came back over and over again and received $150, $200. Then they went and they recruited 14 and 15-year-olds for Epstein, and they were paid to recruit for Epstein. These people should also be investigated. They may have been victims, but they were also perpetrators. It's a lot grayer than the black and white of victimization and survivalization and all of that. It's much more complex than that. But there's no justifying what Epstein did. It was terrible. It was awful. I wish I had never laid eyes on that SOB. He's an awful, awful human being. That's the job of a criminal defense lawyer, to defend and get the best deal. I thought I got the best deal. He thought I got a terrible deal.
According to one of the victims, he was living on why he
Bassem Youssef, what is your wider view about the Epstein scandal and the, so far, very limited accountability for other people involved?
Well, you see, I'm actually like the FBI just dumped millions of unredacted or redacted Epstein files on the public and said, you know what? Here you go. Have fun. It's like a scavenger hunt. Like you expect, like it's kind of like a TikTok challenge. Can you find a pedophile? You have the FBI, you have the DOJ, you have unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited budgets. This is the biggest sex trafficking scandal in modern history. Billionaires, politicians, royalty, and all hanging out on Pedophile Island. And the US government response is like, hey guys, let the internet figure it out. What is this? A group project?
U.S. government is doing everything to help you block every, us from being able to see it. You had the FBI. When Epstein was killed, supposedly, you had the FBI going, wipe the tapes. like, they redacted information and then redacted it again. And you had Thomas Massey and Rokana and a few other congressmen go and had to see the redacted files. Like, they redacted the shit so many times. They showed the victims' names and information, but redacted some of the solicitors and offenders. This shit is unbelievable. And then Pam Bondi sat in that hearing yesterday and with a serious face, like really sat there and was like, she's just like a heinous human being. Like, you know what I mean? Like you let shit corrupt you that much. Where's your soul? It don't seem like it's in there, just a fucking empty vacuum or just a bag of skin. This shit is absolutely amazing. Cash Patel, that guy. He's getting honeypotted. He perjured himself. He said nobody was trafficked. He swore. Look now, but nobody's held to account. Nobody's held responsible for their actions. This shit is a joke.
Are you serious? You want me to do your job? You want some guy on Reddit cross-referencing flight logs at 2 a.m. while he's eating Cheetos? Like, you want TikTokers playing a game of Clue? Hey, it was Prince Andrew and having a massage with the undergirl. What is this? It is not the job of private citizens to figure out clues. I don't understand. Is the FBI too busy to do their job? Here's what should have happened. They should have released the name. They should have arrested predators. They should have hold the trials, like a functioning justice system, right? But instead you give us 4 million trillion documents with no index, no categorization, redactions everywhere. Then say, hey, good luck with that, guys. Like, let us know if you find anything. Wallahi azim, not even a third world country dictatorship would do that to us. In third world countries, they would release nothing. Keep us in the dark, like a self-respected dictatorship. But this choose your own adventure bullshit, this like figure it out on your own. What kind of service is this? Like, I mean, the government takes half of my money so I can do its job and then sends the other half to Israel. I mean, this is just like dysfunctional, you know. And I'm just like, you know, I'm like, and my wider view of this, you know, my first time I appeared with you, Piers, I talked about like how Israel is like a narcissistic psychopath, and it went viral because people felt it. Because you see, narcissists don't just lie to you; they create an entire alternate reality and pull you into it. That's why it's called the narcissist shared reality. The narcissist builds an alternate, highly controlled reality and pulls other people into it. And in that false reality, the narcissists are always, you know, they're special, they're misunderstood, they are victimized. Yeah. And in Israel does this on a national level for decades, right? They have told us we're the victim, we have no choice, it's self-defense, you know. And in the same thing now with Epstein. It's a shared reality. Oh, maybe he's a Russian spy. Maybe he is. It's like it's right in front of our eyes, and we have to go through these like mental gymnastics and figure it out. It's right there. Nothing is gray, Mr. Dershowitz. Nothing is gray. Genocide is not gray. Sex trafficking is not gray.
I agree with
Walking
you.
for
I
a
agree with
Mossad
you,
with
and it
all of
wasn't
these
committed.
evidence
Genocide
is
is
not
what was
gray. I
committed.
understand that you are a lawyer
What's
and you need
committed
to
in
defend your
parts of
client.
Africa?
But
Genocide
sir,
was
All right.
committed many
sir,
times.
Let Alan
why,
respond.
why do you keep cutting me
Let
off,
Alan
Mr.
respond.
Dershowitz?
No,
Why
let
do you keep
Alan
cutting me
respond.
First
off?
of all, let's be very clear. Genocide has a
Okay, you know
particular
what? I can just like
definition.
log out because like I
Genocide
haven't
is
had
not
like a
fighting
couple
a
of minutes to
war.
talk with
Let me. You're allowing me to respond,
Oh
please.
God.
Genocide is
No,
fighting
you
a
didn't.
war.
You responded. It's
and
my
take
turn to speak,
Let
and you
me
keep cutting me
let
off.
me
This is
respond,
not your
please.
courtroom, Mr. Dershowitz.
Are you going to let me respond?
No, you
Let me
didn't let me
respond.
respond.
So here's the point.
Ah, okay.
You're not going to let me
You know
respond.
what? This is just
Okay.
like
Okay.
it's
Let me
it's
respond.
useless. No,
Let
I
me
will not
respond.
let you respond because you didn't
You're
let
not
me
going to let
talk,
me respond. You're not going to let me
and
respond.
I will not let me talk. It's just like childish at this
So
point.
well, we can't continue then. If he won't let me talk, we can't continue.
You
If
are
he
not
wants
letting me
to try to
talk.
filibuster me
You
by
see
his
what he's doing,
lies,
Piers? He
I
is
let you
sabotaging the
talk. Now he
interview
wants.
by
Now
consistently
the man
cutting
who
me
runs
off.
this show wants to give me an opportunity to respond. Will you give me an opportunity to respond? Let me explain to you what genocide means. Genocide is the willful killing of an entire population in order to wipe out the population. The way the Germans and the Nazis took little babies.
That's not what genocide is. It's not an entire population full of shit. And Israel absolutely committed a genocide. Have you seen Gaza? There's literally nothing there. They obliterated everything. And Piers, you held them to account sometimes when people were telling you early on what was going on, and you made excuses for them. Regardless of what, they are not native to that land. They're Europeans. They're European converts. They have no referential tie to biblical Israel. And the funny thing of that nature is, Basim Yusuf, you're Egyptian. Your people that's in that land now are the children of invaders as well. You know, children of the Roman, Greeks, Arabs, Persians, the Hyksos. It's about a combined mix. And I remember you made a comment about Kevin Hart. Saying about stop stealing your culture. I can guarantee you. Look at you. You're damn near a white man with blue eyes. Your ancestors have nothing to do with the origins of any civilization in ancient Kemet. We all know that ancient Kemet came from Upper Egypt, which was southern Egypt, which how we look at the map today, southern Egypt, Nubia, Sudan, Ethiopia, and the Nile travel upward. If they did carbon dating investigation on the early pyramids and Nubia, and they are older than even the pyramids of Giza or Khufu. So, you know, I just had to get some of that shit out. But yeah.
From the Isle of Rhodes, put them on trains, transported them to the gas chambers to kill them, unrelated to war efforts. Genocide is not dropping an atomic bomb in Hiroshima. It's not bombing Berlin. It's not bombing Japan. And it's not what Israel did in Gaza when Hamas hid behind civilians. And Israel, notwithstanding that, they had the best ratio of combatants to civilians of any war in recent times. Even if you take all the Hamas figures, it's less than 3-1, probably closer to 1-1. At worst, it's 2-1. Most wars, it's 10-1 or 8-1.
What the fuck is he talking about? There's been studies that came out that they had an 80-something to 90% civilian casualty rate. What is this guy talking about? They need a fact check on this fucking show, bro. What is he talking about?
So there's not even a plausible claim of genocide. Only anti-Semites and people who are willing to engage in a blood libel are prepared to compare.
I don't know, sure, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Anti-Semites, go fuck yourself, bro. If anything, the Palestinians are actual Semitic people. You guys are converts. You guys are Europeans. I'm tired of white people just. The white people, not all white people, but a lot of them. What do you? Do you just make shit up? Like some narcissistic. The shit that Basson was saying earlier. He's a little bit guilty of it too, but Alan Dershowitz, you were for sure guilty of it. You're just making shit up. Like, you're living in your own fucking psychosis. And then if you say something about them, they say, "Oh, God promises His land to that." Man, shut the fuck up. Nobody promised you nothing. You're from Europe.
What Israel did defending itself in Gaza with what Nazis did in Germany, killing 6 million Jews, Roma people, people from all countries. Those were genocide. What the Muslims did in Turkey, killing the Armenians, that was genocide. What's going on now in Syria against the Kurdish people, that's genocide. These aren't war fighting defenses. That's genocide. But when a country tries to defend its civilians by killing terrorists who are hiding behind civilians and civilians die, you could call it a lot of things, but the one thing you cannot call it is genocide and maintain your credibility as a decent human being. That is a blood libel to call it genocide.
Okay, you've all right. You've both made your.
I didn't make any points. I really didn't make any points.
Yeah, I'm going to come to you, Bassem, for the. Bassem, yeah, I will come to you to respond. I just want to point out that on the Epstein scandal, what is quite telling is that the prediction markets, which people follow closely these days, Polymarket asked, will anyone be jailed over the Epstein disclosures? It reached a high of 48% at the beginning of the month, but it's now down to just 17%. And the Trump administration did, of course, promise, including on this show, that we'd see many prosecutions. It does seem quite extraordinary that now it's looking more and more likely that nobody will be jailed other than a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, Bassem, you can have a final response to. Well, we need to see it, I think. Bassem, your final response.
I'd like to see it too. I'd like to see a complete, thorough investigation. Anybody who committed crimes, including falsely accusing people of crimes, should be put in jail. And anybody who committed crimes, pedophilia or anything else like it, should be put in jail. And I hope they are.
Okay. On that, we're all agreed. Bassem, final word to you.
I think that Epstein Island showed us that in order to be powerful, you need first to be compromised. And as long as you are compromised, only then you can stay powerful. This is the conclusion of all of this. None of these people go to jail. There will be like a couple of fall guys, Peter Attia, he will lose his thing, all of this, it's important, but the billionaires, the people in power, they will be untouchable. We will not see a single person that's going to go behind bar unless he's not protected.
But they have to be guilty.
Mr. Dershowitz, why are you
Who are they?
Dude, what I didn't even talk about you. Why are you... It's just like, it's so frustrating.
I care about innocent people being prosecuted. I care about McCarthy.
Care about his ass being prosecuted.
Dude, I'm sorry, what did I just say?
Association.
What did I just say? That
how do we know if there are billionaires who are involved? If there are, let's name them. Let's get the evidence and let's prosecute them and let's put them in jail. But not on the basis of McCarthyism, not on the basis of guilt by association. Let's do it on the basis of real evidence. I'm in favor of that. You and I agree with that.
No one will be punished and no one will go to jail, and these people will go. When these files have released, even with all of these redactions, the one thing that should have been done, that all of these people should be now be at least investigated. We didn't even, you have like an FBI director, and you have, you have an FBI director who came out and said there's no sex trafficking, and the email proved otherwise. You have all of the people, there's nothing, and then the emails proved otherwise. And you have like the FBI director, Kash Patel, who said once, America needs to wake up and prioritize Israel. Don Bongino, second man in the FBI, said like, Israel is very close to my heart. How do you expect truth from these people? I think, though, I mean, they are all like working for a different master, and they're not working for the American people. So I really don't expect anything. None of those people will see a day of investigation, a day of jail.
Yeah, all I
and
know,
the fall,
okay,
and
look,
the
all
fall
I know
guy
is,
will be people who are useless or unimportant.
yeah, I kind of agree with you, Bassem. I do think that, unfortunately, the Trump administration, before and after the election, made it clear they were going to be totally transparent. All the files were going to get released. We've now.
All right, man. First video back, man. Feel good to get this one out. I'm ready to get some more for you guys. Ready to get it going. Ready to get the chance. Ready to get it pumping, man. This sounds crazy, but no diddy, but you get the point. Let's get to it, man.